We are on the margins today, where the forest, the woodlands, meets the salt marsh. Both of these were considered inhospitable places for early humans to live. The salt marshes, for obvious reasons, you can sink down into them. You can't farm them. You don't get a lot of animals living on them. The odd rabbit, maybe. But they're easy to catch somewhere else. The odd nesting bird's egg you might get. But this would have represented to our ancient ancestors a deeply spiritual experience. They're on the threshold of two worlds, and right over there, the forest, a few feet over that way, a few meters that way, was a completely different realm. This is something that we've lost in the modern world, and yet it's still as vital and as important as ever, the concept of the woods being a completely different reality than everywhere else. There's no difference between going deep into the woods and going to the bottom of the ocean. The woods is basically a gigantic creature. The whole thing, the whole macrocosm, the whole thing is designed to eat anything and everything in there, including the trees. Their leaves fall off, their needles fall off, their bark falls off, they decay. They're eaten by grubs and weevils, and the weevils themselves are eaten by other things, organisms. This is why you don't find bones in the woods. As soon as an animal dies in the woods, its bones are instantly found by predators, by scavengers, by carrion. And you could spend 20 odd years walking through a woods full of bear, boar, mountain lions, foxes, wolves. You'll never ever see a skull or a bone. It instantaneously becomes a food source for something else. And the woods is a disappearing land. It's a land where things go to disappear, to be consumed by the sylvan dynamic of the beautiful pastoral woods. But it's like a camouflage. You're being lured into something that in previous ancient times, or if you became injured, would consume you. And the woods today is still a formidable place. I always say, if you want to know who a real person is, have them spend the night in the woods, and you'll discover who they really are. When darkness falls and you're around the campfire and the only glow is the immediate area around the campfire, and then when you get into the tent and every sound is amplified, every noise is just a sensation, is fantastically amplified, but fanatically in some people's minds. And you will see the cowards come out then, they'll be screaming for their mammies. It's the most amazing thing. It's very interesting experience to watch. If you want to know who your real comrades are in a fight, go for a camp in the woods. You'll actually see them become mentally unhinged and everything. It's a bizarre thing while you're going through it. And because the woods, even today, provides a great place to hide. GPS, even 5G can't penetrate the woods. The trees are full of electromagnetic interference, water and all the other minerals and everything else in them, and including the density of them, that makes penetration by rays very difficult, by any kind of electromagnetic or digital ray. Or even radar is very difficult. Even heat-seeking thermal devices, yeah, they're great in Iraq and they're great in the desert, but you put them in the woods, it's a whole different thing altogether. They can't penetrate through trees. This is why recent wars have been fought out in the open in deserts like Iraq and places like that, or the barren hills of Afghanistan. If they were to be fought in, say, the woods of the world, the Black Forest of Europe, of Germany, the great vast forests of Russia, the forest of North America, you'd find a whole different dynamic at work then regarding military technology, and a whole different psychology needed by the troops to do that. Because the woods is a different realm. It's like the bottom of the ocean. And our early ancestors knew this, and this is why the woods are literally filled with magic. This is why even though I don't believe that Bigfoot is an actual creature, I absolutely believe the Bigfoot thing is real. It's a form of fairy. And I believe the fairies, and that's why they always appear in the woods. because the woods are like the bottom of the ocean. Think of the entities, and this is why we find new species of fairies all the time in the woods. Think of the entities in the woods, the same as you would think of these strange animals at the bottom of the ocean that no one believed existed and no one believed was real until they had deep submarines to go down looking for oil or whatever, and they saw these fantastical fish and animals, and even large animals like large octopuses and large whales and even squids and sharks that can actually glow in the dark and have no eyes, and they don't need them, and they find other ways to get around. This is the most amazing thing about life. It can flourish anywhere. And so the wood gives us an insight into incorporeal realms and corporeal realms where things are different. This is why there's a certain, among the Abrahamics, a terror of the woods, an absolute terror of the woods. And this is because within the woods, this is why when the Abrahamics really conquered Ireland, they really conquered it by the Puritans chopping down our ancient forests. That's how it really happened. Because people were able to survive perfectly well. Once you adapt and live in the woods, you can survive for the rest of your life if you know how to live and how to survive. In fact, in many ways, quite well. And that's the thing, is that you become the same way an animal goes to the bottom of the sea and loses their eyes or evolves to not need light anymore. The human who goes into the wild man, the Woodland, who goes into the woods, the European wild man, they literally change and become the woods themselves, almost like an ent, but in human form rather than tree form. And this is why the woods are another realm, and this is why the woods are filled with magic. And if you want to experience the transcendental, the magical, yeah, you can go to an ashram in India, Tibet, you can go to a stone circle, but the most immediate places in the world to experience it all over this world, whether it's jungle, pine forest, old growth, broadleaf forest, is the woodlands.